Welcome back into the Pig Trail Show and welcome to another Hog Hoops Report. That is Kevin McPherson. I am Jacob Morris. And Kevin, let's talk recruiting for the Hogs. It's always a constant topic with John Calipari, and it is visitor season for the Hogs. We talked, I think, a couple weeks back about, the balance between doing some on a football weekend versus not. Regardless, plenty of visitor news to talk about for the Razorbacks.
Abdu Torre, class of 2026, a 6'5" wing out of Notre Dame High School in West Haven, Connecticut. Little East Coast flavor in the house. We know Arkansas in the top 7 schools for Torre, but, really when it boils down to, I think it's Arkansas, the home state school, UConn, and Danny Hurley, and probably Providence. Now, he recently visited Providence, and then over the weekend, a visit to Arkansas. So from just coming from inside those doors on Arkansas's perspective, I got a one-word response when I asked how the visit went. It was just good.
Okay.
I think just good. Good is better than
Yeah.
or something else or being ignored. Another source told me that for the third consecutive weekend, now you had Caleb Holt and Brandon McCoy Jr. on consecutive weekends prior to this weekend. And so the word is for each one of these, the detail that Calipari and staff have gone into explaining to these players the specific visions for those players and how playing at Arkansas can actually improve in their positional versatility beyond what position they're basically painted as, whether it's a wing or an off guard or a lead guard. Showing value and being able to maybe defend, helping players learn how to defend multiple positions or on offense play more than one position. So I think they're doing a really good job of that. So different feedback that all sounds positive for all visits so far. 3 now with Torre being the most recent one. He got in early Friday, by the way. He was in early Friday. You saw him that he was on campus on his IG account. Then he posted once again, I don't know if it was later Friday or on Saturday, they went to Ruth Chris and Rogers. He posted a photo of his dinner, of his plate. Just giving us little insights into how what's going on during his visit. And so, now that one's completed and Arkansas looks ahead to bringing in 2 more. Look, Jacob, this is a thing where I think if Calipari wants this player and is 100% all in on him, Arkansas is going to win this recruitment in the end. If it's not Arkansas, probably UConn or Providence. But again, I think that's if Calipari, takes a pass on this, which I don't think at this point when you brought him on campus. Remember, he was on campus a year ago, almost a year ago in October. Attended the Arkansas football home game against LSU. There was no home game this weekend. We know where that was played, what the result was. It's fresh on everybody's mind today. But you still had basketball practice for him to attend and all that. And so now you're looking ahead to the next visits as that one has concluded, but you're also looking ahead with 3 visitors that you brought in now. At some point, how does their recruiting either, get to a point where they're ready to make a commitment announcement? How many more visits on the table for these guys? How much more are they going to do in terms of kicking the tires on other programs as they go through their process? Remember, the early signing period is basically starts in early November through the mid part of the month, and that's not too far off.
Yeah, well, let's talk through the coming visits for the Hogs. And again, that early signing period for people is always important because it's where a lot of guys end up obviously making their decisions. But it puts I wouldn't say a unique spot, but you would think, all right, like these guys, when they're about to make a decision, might come for a basketball game or whatever it might be. But with where that visiting or with what early signing period is, it's you got to get your visits in so you're ready to make a decision by the time early November rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, so these visits are everything, and you have to get them squeezed in before basketball season for the guys that are going to decide early what you're saying. And so, do you make sure you bring as many as you can in when your fan base is on campus for a football game where you really get that buzz going, and stirred up. And it's always usually those vibes are good, win or lose, because it's a build up to the game. And they've already been on campus for at least an evening and most of the day before you kick off. So you didn't have that for a couple of these visitors, and you'll have some more visits coming up this coming weekend. I mean, you got a couple coming in, and you still are on the road in football playing at Memphis. So we jump into those names right now.
Give them to me. Let's go. Let's roll.
Well, we're staying in this class of 2026. 7'1" center, the number 1 center in the country, 285 pounds. Arafangiani, out of Iowa United Prep. Calipari out to see him last week on the campus at Iowa United Prep. I believe it was Tuesday evening. I reported that on my X account and got photos sent to me and posted those to social media as well of Cal in the house with Deanne. But he's coming in for his official visit this coming weekend, September 19th to the 21st, as is, and this has been planned for much longer. Deanne's visit dates changed for the second time. It's his third dates to come to Arkansas again, September 19th to 21st. But same weekend is Jordan Smith Jr., the class of 2026 five-star top five rated guard. So this will be the third top five rated five-star guard that Arkansas has had in on official visits here in the fall. When you look at, by then it'll be a fourth consecutive weekend of visits, but it's also the first weekend where Arkansas, as it's scheduled now, will have multiple official visitors for that 2026 class, Deanne and Jordan Smith Jr. That has not happened yet under Calipari's watch, not in the last recruiting cycle, not so far. Now, he's had unofficial visitors in from other classes on the same weekend as an official visitor for the class that's kind of the sense of urgency, the upcoming early period, in this case 2026. But this time around, he'll have two official visitors. Again, the way it's scheduled now, things change all the time in visit schedules. We could learn later today or sometime in the week that either one's off the board or both, or they've changed dates. So you just never know. But the way it is now, that'll be a first for Arkansas. Let's see, do they bring him in overlapping for the entire weekend? Do they do a situation where someone comes in a little earlier, maybe another early Friday morning or a Thursday evening arrival, and you get most of that visit out through Saturday, and then you get a late arrival, late Friday night or something like that, and have a visit that goes through later on Sunday? We'll see how they manage that, because it will be, again, a first for Calipari at Arkansas. But again, it's just outstanding. Deanne is a top 10 rated player, not only the number one center in the country, but top 10 overall, very skilled big man. And then Jordan Smith Jr., I think, is the best two-way player in the country, Jacob. Defense, offense. He's the kind of guy similar to a J.J. Andrews who's already committed to Arkansas. As true freshmen, you put them on the court, they're physically ready, they're athletically ready. They play to win games. They don't play to win, you know, individual, accolades. They're there to do whatever it takes to win a play, which you start piling those up, you start winning games. It's going to be hard to take those guys off the court once you put them out there as true freshmen.
Yeah.
Assuming you've already got J.J. Andrews, let's say you can get Jordan Smith Jr. on the, committed as well. You got a 1-2 punch backcourt wing coming in as true freshmen that those guys are going to help right away.
Yeah, it's exciting, especially when you talk about having that many visitors on campus at the same time. And again, it's always impressive when you can hit a first for Cal, even if it's a first for Cal at Arkansas. So it's a lot to look forward to for Hog fans. And again, it's going to be interesting to see how this 26 class comes together. It's interesting to see how, just as Cal now has his feet under him, what that means for recruiting here at Arkansas. It'll be fascinating to continue to watch. But we're going to talk a little bit about the tip-off tour coming back to Hot Springs. But first, let's set a quick break and get a message from our sponsors. All right, back here on the Hog Hoops Report, Kevin McPherson and Jacob Morris with you. And Kevin, a year ago, Arkansas hit the road for the tip-off tour. Went to a couple different spots. Hot Springs was one of them. I saw you there. You and I were there. We talked there. It's going to be an event again for the Razorbacks. It was a success last year, getting fans from around the state. The goal to see Cal and the team and the Hogs making that an intention again this year, and Hot Springs and Banco ZK Arena once again going to play home to a tip-off tour stop for the Hogs.
Yeah, last year that game was back-to-back tip-off tour. They played Hot Springs where you and I saw each other. They were in Pine Bluff the very next day on a Sunday, so Saturday, Sunday. This year they're limiting it to one stop back in Hot Springs, back at Banco ZK, October 12th. Mm-hmm. That's a Sunday, so last year they didn't have enough bodies. They certainly weren't healthy enough to scrimmage or have some version of what in the past has been a red-white, intra-squad scrimmage. So it was like a glorified practice. Now they're describing this as a scrimmage. One stop, and it's a scrimmage, so maybe similar to a red-white. Maybe they have officials on the court, keeping score, all that kind of thing. So we'll see. Maybe it's a step up from what we saw last year. Although last year it was very entertaining, and fans, it was new to have Calipari as the head coach. Now you've got a season under your belt with a lot of promise coming into year two. And it's we're not, we talk about the early signing period in mid-November, early to mid-November.
Mhm.
This is basically mid-October. So just next about a month, you're going to get to see the product for the first
Less.
time.
Yeah.
You hope everybody's healthy, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing very limited practice clips coming out. We saw Carter Knox dunking on the newcomer Paulo Samito on one that came out a couple of days ago. But man, this is just not enough. The little slow drips I mean, we're out here, dying of basketball thirst, hoop hogs thirst, and you give me a droplet here and there throughout a week, two or three things. No, let's get that tip off tour. Let's get that scrimmage. Let's get courtside, and let's see what we got here. And I'm really looking forward to it, Jacob.
Yeah, they're kind of stringing us along here. We need a little bit more in terms of content of this team,
Yeah.
all the above. It's a great point, though. I forgot about that from the standpoint that we were there in Hot Springs, and Cal just kind of had fun with it. But I mean, he just told the crowd that was there. I mean, we got about 7 healthy guys right now, so we're gonna run through some drills. You are not going to see us scrimmage. John L. Davis, a couple other guys were out as well. Hopefully, the fans that make their way to Bank OZK Arena. It might not be a full, 60-minute scrimmage or whatever it might be. You don't want to risk injury,
Right.
but hopefully get a little bit better of a look at this year's team than last year.
I agree. I mean, we remember, if you remember correctly, it was Carter Knox came out on the court first with some of the Arkansas coaches. Brad Calipari, player development, he's in charge of that. Working on his one dribble pull up mid range shots, just really trying to economize
Yeah.
his movement and his dribbling, getting into his shots. They worked on that. You saw the 3-man weave. I mean, he just didn't have you didn't have any lot. You did have a little bit of there was a little bit of competitive stuff, but you had GAs out there because you didn't
Yeah.
have enough bodies, and it wasn't much, And then you had Calipari on the mic after Arkansas would get a dunk or a layup, he goes, "Don't you prefer that over hoist, jacking up a bunch of threes?" Remember, he kept saying that.
Yeah.
Why shoot a three when we can get that? You got to have both. I mean, he builds these teams to be really good at getting into that paint, getting those paint touches, getting to the rim. You hope you get out in transition. You hope if you don't finish, you get fouled and shoot free throws. But you need to shoot the three ball a little bit. We'll see what reveals itself in terms of that perimeter game, that perimeter shooting when again when we're in the building just next month.
Yeah, I think a fun element about it, you touched on it there with the don't you like, dunks and layups over threes or whatever it is, obviously it's not an exact replica of a practice in any capacity whatsoever. However, we did get little windows into like, hey, how does Cal view this team, right? And one of the big ones to the point of, don't you like layups and dunks better was we saw early and often him getting on Trevin Brazil. It was like, no, you ain't shooting threes. You remember that? And so like, we got a kind of window into, how does he
Yeah.
view certain players? How does he figure them fitting into the offense? Hopefully we get a win. Maybe some of the new freshmen, whatever it might be, get a little bit of an idea of how they might be utilized on this year's team.
Absolutely. You're going to have a good mix too. Retention, two guys out of the portal. Once again, your front
Mhm.
line is basically portal additions in addition to Brazil. But those two freshman guards, I hear more and more that Darius Cup Jr. really seems to be putting things together in
Mhm.
practice from the source information I get. But remember, I've only been in there for 1 hour, back in early July. So, well, how have these guys progressed? You added those two 7-footers. We're going to get eyes on them. So, I'm just hoping everybody's healthy. I'm
Mhm.
hoping everybody's healthy because even if you got one or two guys out, you probably still have enough to scrimmage. But that's not good enough for me. I need to see all these dudes doing what they do and figure out, they probably will control how much we get to look at. But by the same token, whatever we get to see, I just want to see all hands on deck and, give me something, not just to have content. If I wasn't doing any of this, I can't get enough basketball. When you get the Razorbacks and John Calipari's in the mix, give me as much as I can get on that because at the level he recruits, these dudes can go. Keep them. Let's find a way to keep them healthy and showcase what they can do.
Yeah, it's a fun way for the fans to get to know the team as well because such a big theme last year was Sure, there are people that follow, every single piece of recruiting and every single piece of this, that, and the other. But, I think there was a real, we have no idea who this is with just the general fan base in terms of getting to know the team. This is kind of the first step towards that. And then your point as well, right? Where like once we get a look at the team, it begins to just feel a little bit more real. Basketball season's around the corner. We can
Mm.
begin to get excited. We got exhibitions coming up. And again, it's crazy to say October 12th. So that is less than a month away. We're going to get a look at this team. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Tip off tour stop in Hot Springs. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Hoping to see a lot of different fans out there at Banco ZK Arena. We're going to hit one more quick break here on the Hog Hoops Report. When we come back, we're talking a little bit more about Cal. Shocker, shocker. But first, a quick break and a message from our sponsors. Back on the Hog Hoops Report and wrapping up shop, Kevin McPherson and Jacob Morris with you. And Kevin, before we go, Calipari gets a award every other day. Seems like another one this
Oh,
this week with Man of the Year at the Boys and Girls Club. Pretty cool instance and opportunity there for Cal.
yeah, his trophy case spilleth over. Man of the
Yeah.
Year, Central Arkansas Boys and Girls and Boys Club honored him. So I had a day filled with appointments, personal appointments. So I did not get to attend that. Hated missing it, but Cal comes in and you know how it is. He gets an award. He sits down and has, like a camp, fireside chat with folks in attendance, people that came out for this. And, he runs through, things that matter to him when it comes to, this era of NIL and transfer portal and the different things. And he's got a lot of thoughts on things outside of what happens in between the lines, and these are opportunities for him to share that. Sometimes he drops little nuggets of intel. We're going to play this game, or we got this. So you just never know what you're going to get from Cal. But again, he's a man of the people. He wants to get around in the state for stuff to get to know not only the lay of the land, but some of the folks in the different communities. It's probably his third or fourth stop in Central Arkansas in recent months, going back to July. But he's everywhere. So what's the takeaway? The guy, but everything he says he's about, he backs it up.
Yeah.
He says, "I want to be more than just your coach." Well, all you got to do is look around, and you see that he delivers on that. Look, he could just say, "Put the trophy in the mail and send it to me. I'm busy." And it's not like he's shortcutting his team, coaching or doing what he needs to do. He's on the road recruiting. He was on the road this past week, making stops. But again, he's the kind of guy that if he says I'm going to be in the community, you keep your eyes open, you pay attention. That's where you see him.
Yeah, it's a great point because when he came here, he mentioned that in the introductory press conference, just in terms of not only for him but teaching the team as well, and to kind of touch back on what we were talking about before, what the team did with washing feet before the Hot Springs tip off tour a year ago is a great example of that at the YMCA down there, and he just continues to make a concerted effort. To your point, to not only, hey, we're going to win basketball games, I'm going to be the basketball coach at the University of Arkansas, but continuing to embrace the state and kind of going above and beyond in that area. And I have a lot of respect for that because, it's the stuff that
Mm.
is obviously far more important than basketball. And it's very easy to say that. And quite frankly, if we're being honest, everybody says that. And it's a different level too, especially with everything that he has going on, to make a concerted effort to not only appear, but just spend genuine time with these places. And this was just another case, an example of that.
He's one of the most engaging speakers too. That even when he's not at the point where he's not taking
Yeah.
questions yet, he relates to people in a way where it's not like he's talking to you, but like before you can say anything, you feel like you're in a conversation with him. It's interesting, throughout his, when he's engaging with fans and these folks at these events, he pauses and asks questions. Can I
Hmm.
do a humble brag? Or what did you think about this? And so he's not, and then he takes questions at the end, but the whole thing feels very conversational and relatable and not like some prepared can sit thing where, those things you can get a lot out of too. It's just a little bit
Hmm.
more personalized, more personal, it seems like. And you feel like you were, embraced in that situation as opposed to being talk to, I guess,
Yeah,
is what I'm
yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah, it feels less like I'm checking a box off a list and more like, hey, I'm going to make a genuine appearance here and I'm going to make a genuine attempt to connect with the people that are here.
Yeah.
Understanding the importance of the role, how much people look up to him, not only from the standpoint of what he can do for the players, but again, just what he can do for the community, what he can do for the state overall. It's pretty awesome. But that's all the time we have on this week's Hog Hoops Report. That is Kevin McPherson. I am Jacob Morris. More Pig Show coming up on the other side of the break. We'll be back to talk to you next week.